How can I manage my time as a PhD student? This is an incredibly common question that I come across from people at all stages on their PhD journey. And the answer that I give to different people varies because what works for one person isn't going to work for the next person. And indeed, what works for you now might not work for you in a year's time or 2 years' time. But one thing that you can be doing regularly to really help you with your time management is getting to grips with how you're actually spending your time, being aware of how you're spending your time. Because if you don't know that, then any attempts that you make to try and get in control of your time are just going to fail. It's like someone saying to you, I really want to lose 10 pounds, but they don't know how much they weigh at this point in time. Or somebody saying, well, tomorrow I want to write twice the amount of words that I wrote today, but they don't actually know how many words they wrote today. So you need to know where you are. You need to know where you're starting from, because if you don't, you're not going to get very far and you're not actually going to be able to see whether what you are doing is helping you. In this video, we are going to be doing a time audit. We are going to be looking at these things to check how you're using your time right now, how you can use it better, and how you can integrate this kind of thing into your routine going forwards. I'm Dr. Elizabeth Yardley, and for the last 20 years, I've been working as an academic in UK universities. And in that time, I've heard so many people saying to me, I don't have the time to get this done. I don't know what I've done with my time. I had the entire day set aside to work on this thing, and I've done nothing on it. I hear that from colleagues, I hear that from students, I hear that from PhD candidates. All of us have issues with time management because we've just got so much stuff on our plates. We're balancing work with study and life just gets in the way sometimes. So one of the most powerful things that we can do is develop a really strong awareness of what we're doing with our time, because that is going to help us get better at managing it. So first up, what is a time audit and why should I do one? Well, a time audit enables us to carry out an examination of how we're actually spending our time, and we document what's going on. We actually write down or type out how we're spending our time. And this is going to enable us to take a snapshot of what is currently going on in terms of our time management. How exactly are we managing our time? And looking at it in this way gives us an objective view of it. Now, you might think that you're aware of how you're spending your time, but when it's down on a piece of paper or it's down on a screen in front of you, you have cold, hard facts. You have reality right there in front of you. So doing a time audit enables you to take a look at all of that stuff and see what kind of habits you've got into around time management. It allows you to identify some of the things that you might be wasting your time on. And the first time you do one, you might be quite surprised at some of the things that you're spending your time on, some of the things that you need to look at and you need to take a step back and go, should I really be doing that? So it is super valuable and it's super simple as well. So let's get into how we actually do it. So here is my 5-step time audit. And the first thing that you need to do is choose how you're going to actually track your time. Now, you might want to get fancy and use an app or some software, or you might want to keep things simple and just use a pen and paper. If you are just using a pen or paper, you want to be doing something like setting an alarm to go off on your phone every hour or every couple of hours. And then when that alarm goes off, you write down what you've been spending your time on. Now, to make this simple for you, I have got a free time tracker PDF that you can download from the link in my description. And you'll see it is super simple. It simply has slots for each hour of the day and space for you to write in or type in what you've been doing. The next thing you need to do is visualize your ideal day. So if you were to get to a place where your time management was spot on and you were spending your time really efficiently, working on the things that you really want to prioritize, how would that day pan out? What would it look like? Now, this is going to involve identifying what your priorities are right now. And obviously, that's going to be things related to your dissertation, your PhD, your master's. It's going to be things like assignments, literature reviews, data collection, that kind of stuff. But also, think outside of that. Think about what your personal priorities are right now. You might be in a stage of your life when you're wanting to prioritize family time or when you're wanting to take up a new hobby. For example, you might think, okay, I really want to get into yoga or meditation or whatever, because that's something that's really valuable to you. Well, that's the priority right now. So don't just think about your scholarly stuff, your academic stuff. Think about the other things in life that you want to put first, and make sure that you are writing these things down. So just do a bit of a brainstorm. What does that ideal day look like? How would that pan out? What time would you start doing particular things? How long would you spend on them? Just visualize that ideal day. And that is going to enable those core values, those core beliefs and priorities to come through and show you exactly what you should be spending your time on. Step 3 is to actually start logging your time, actually recording the activities that you're spending your time on. Now, ideally, you would do this for a week. So you get the kind of full cycle of the week when you can see what's going on any given day, and you can kind of tap into those patterns and those routines and those times when things might go a little bit off course, and to identify the regular things that are happening that you need to take account of. Now, I understand that tracking your time for a week, might be a little bit tiresome. So I would say if you don't want to do an entire week, make sure that you're doing at least 3 days, okay? Because we need to see patterns. We need to see what's happening on the regular. We need to be taking a look at your routines. And ensure that you're choosing a week or a few days that is a fairly normal everyday week or few days. Don't pick a period of time in which something else is going on that's going to kind of throw everything off. So, when you're on holiday from work, or when something significant is happening in your life, you've got a big event, like a party or a wedding or something that you need to do for someone else. Make sure that these are fairly typical kind of everyday days that you're actually tracking. And ensure that you are logging all of your activities, not just your work-related ones or your university-related ones. Put everything in there. Chores, personal time, exercise, eating, meals, going out. You are literally kind of forensically documenting everything that you're doing. And this is really important, so don't miss out a single thing. Step 4 is to analyse the results. You list out the activities that you've been engaging in, and you document the amount of time that you've been spending on those activities. Now, when you're making your list of activities, you might want to group them into themes or categories just to keep the whole thing a bit better organised. Now, take your results from your time audit, from your little analysis, and think back to your ideal day and compare what your ideal day was with how your days have actually panned out. Look at those high priority tasks that you really wanted to be devoting time to. How much time are you actually devoting to them? Have a look for any patterns as well. So where you've got periods of time when you did spend time on those high priority things, what else was going on? How did you create the space for that? How did you enable that to happen? Also look out for times when you haven't spent very much time on that high priority thing. What has got in the way? What has interrupted you? What are some of those things that you need to look out for? One thing that I would say is really important when you are comparing the ideal day with the days as they've actually panned out is don't be too hard on yourself. Don't kind of give yourself a hard time and really beat yourself up about the fact that you spent, an hour scrolling on Instagram. It's fine. The thing that really matters here is that you are now aware of how you're spending your time. You have that data, you have that information, and that you can use that data now to actually make things better, to actually improve your time management. So please don't be too down on yourself. Sometimes when you look at how you actually spend your time, it can be quite like, ooh, cringe, awkward, but it's fine. It is data, and deal with it as such. The final step is to create an action plan. So having done your analysis, having seen the difference between the day that you want to pan out and the day that actually pans out, what can you do to kind of bring those two things closer together? How can you spend more time doing the high priority things and less time doing the low priority things? And there are a few pieces of advice I can give you about this. Firstly, delete. So are there some things that you can just get rid of, that you can stop doing? Now, for me, social media is one of these things. It's important that I'm on social media because that gets my content out there, that's helpful for the audience that I'm serving, but at the same time I do tend to go down the scroll hole I do tend to end up spending, an hour on Instagram when I really only needed to be on there for 10 minutes. So one thing that you can do is actually delete apps if they're not useful things for you. If you don't need to use them then and there, you can delete them. Another thing that you can do in this kind of scenario is set a timer for when you're actually finding yourself having to do something that is potentially going to suck your time. So I set timers for kind of 10 minutes, 15 minutes sometimes when I'm on social media. And I know that there's probably a bit of a risk that I'm going to get a bit carried away and I would have lost an hour that I'm never going to get back. So you can delete things, you can set timers to limit the time that you spend on tasks that are time drainers. One other thing that you can do is to delegate. And think about delegation in a broad sense, not just in terms of in a work sense when you are giving somebody more junior than you tasks to do. You can delegate things at home. So if cleaning chores and that kind of thing are taking up a disproportionate amount of your time, you can ask somebody you live with for help with that. Or if you live on your own, maybe think about hiring a cleaner or somebody to help with that kind of stuff. Even if it's only like once every couple of weeks or once a month, that's something that is going to help you out, that is going to free up time. You can also start clearing some space for those high priority things. You can start blocking out time in your calendar and putting an actual appointment in there for those things. I think this is a really important thing to do because often the high priority stuff, if we don't allocate time periods for it, if we don't block off time for it, it has to kind of fall between the cracks of other stuff that's going on in our lives. It has to kind of fit in around other things that are in our calendar. But if we actually block out time, even, hey, I'm going to spend 2 hours with my partner today, we're going to go out for coffee or we're going to go out for lunch. If that is in your calendar, it makes it much more likely that it's actually going to happen. One other top tip is to get an accountability partner. So if you and a friend of yours or somebody you're studying with, one of your peers at university is struggling with the same stuff that you're struggling with, maybe buddy up and hold each other accountable and agree to spend time doing the thing that you've been putting off together. So writing up, for example, I know lots of PhD students who have kind of struggled to prioritise writing up their thesis, and they've paired up with another PhD student and they've arranged to meet up a couple of times a week and spend a few hours together just both writing. That can be a really valuable thing to do, because if it's not just you who's got to prioritise this thing, if you've got to show up for somebody else, that does make it all the more likely that you are actually going to make the time for that. And lastly, I would say make sure that you do these time audits regularly, especially if things in your life change, if you have some big life event, if something that used to be there is no longer there, if something new is introduced to your life, you need to then look at the impact of that on how you're spending your time. So maybe, once every 2 or 3 months, think about doing another time audit just to kind of check the temperature, just to get a feel for how you're spending your time and if you have kind of fallen off the wagon since you last did a time audit. So regular time audits are really important. So make sure that you're doing them regularly and your time management is going to improve so much. And that's it, we're done. That is my 5-step time audit process. So firstly, you choose a method to track your time. Secondly, you visualize what your ideal day is going to look like. Thirdly, you actually record how you're spending your time. Fourthly, you analyze it, you look at those cold hard facts. And lastly, and fifthly, you come up with an action plan as to what you're going to do to manage your time better. Now, don't forget to download that free time tracker. The link is in the description, and I'll be back in the next video with more tips on how to supercharge your studies.